How's everybody doing? It's Hank, Josh, and Ricky back with another Two Birds and a Third week in review. This is the third week in review. Ricky has something to say.
Hold up, give me 1 second, because the thing is it go? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, it didn't want to go because it was like triggered. No, but okay. So welcome back to the Two Birds and a Third football podcast. And if you're tuning in on my end of things on my channel, that's because this is the promotional podcast. That means that you're going to get this podcast for free, but if you want to see more of our podcast, you have to go onto the official channel of the Two Birds and a Third football podcast. I will be uploading clips, segments from our podcast, but again, this is the first promotional podcast, so it's kind of just like YouTube Red, except it's free.
remember when, what was it? I remember when YouTube Red came out, and I was like, you mean RedTube? I was like, this is where all the porn's gonna go that gets uploaded to YouTube. Alright, so what are we gonna talk about?
Okay, so first let's do a quick synopsis of our teams. But let's do just a brief rundown. I apologize for cutting you off, but let's do. Okay, so first, for those that don't know how this is done, we're gonna do a brief rundown of our teams, how we think they did, how we didn't think they did, and then what we're gonna go into is the Giants and their problems, alongside the Eagles and their end of things. Also, we're gonna talk about the two Super Bowl teams from Super Bowl 51 and the directions that they are going. And the Patriots and Atlanta. Basically, also, we're going to talk about Kareem Hunt. And do we think that he's a better rookie in terms of impact on a team, better than Ezekiel Elliott? And then finally, we're going to talk about Cam Newton and whether he is taking a toll on his body and he's in physical decline. And then finally, we'll get to our weekly picks.
All right, Josh.
All right. That sounds
Josh, you start us off with the disappointment of the week.
I'll start us off with the disappointment of the week because I woke up the night before. One of my best friends, he's moving away, so we went out and had some fun. And then I had to wake up because of my West Coast location. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch my Ravens get absolutely mollywomped by the Jaguars in London. Final score of 44-7. It was one of the most lopsided defeats in the Ravens' history. There's nothing pretty about this at all. It's a broken game. That's what I call it. It's just a game where we broke down in every facet. Special teams, we let up a giant 37-yard 4th and 3. And then also, obviously, offensively, we had 4 3-and-outs to start the game. They had 20 points on us before we had our first down of the game. So, all in all, it's a horrible game. The one thing I will say, though, is I am looking forward to Alex Collins. I think he's going to get some more touches. That guy runs with some ferocity, and I think that he deserves some more touches, especially in this, offensive scheme right now. We need to get things going because Buck Allen's kind of assumed that Danny Woodhead role for right now. I'm not putting him on the same level, but he's been catching a lot more passes out of the backfield, out of the running backs. So moving forward, we'll see how it goes. Our offensive line, like I said, didn't look good, but Matt Skura, undrafted free agent, and Jermaine Ulamore, our rookie pick from last year, they came in and played right guard, and they looked decent. They looked like, undrafted guy and rookie, but they played well. So moving forward, let's see our offensive line do well.
Eat. Alrighty, so I guess we'll go to my...
From what I didn't really get to see the game, but again, it's one of those games that you really have to throw out. I really do think that the Ravens were kind of not really looking for, but they were kind of due for a letdown because their defense has been winning games for them, and the offense hasn't been nearly as good as the defense, and it's just the way the ball fell.
It came to a head, yeah. And remember, the year that we won the Super Bowl, we got crushed by the Texans. I think it was almost the same kind of score, something like 38, almost 40 points. We barely scored 10 or something like that. That same year, we came back and we went on to win the Super Bowl. So,
it doesn't.
One game. It's one game. We still have, more than 3/4 of the season to go. So let's see where it takes us.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ricky, how about you? You guys got
We dem boys. That's what I'm talking about. Now, okay, now looking at this, now there's the inner fan in me. And Hank was live. I was getting really upset at the beginning. I wasn't as bad as Kelly apparently, but I was kind of bad. No, but
she immediately was like, "Get my drink ready for me. Get my shot ready for me."
But what I will say this is, and when I said this last week, I told people to relax, and it paid off. Pretty much, the Cowboys look like the team that they were last year. I'm not saying they are at that point, that team last year, but you got to keep in mind that it kind of takes a bit to see what a team actually is until like mid-October. So but the Cowboys played a phenomenal game. Dak Prescott looked amazing. He had a he had a 141 QBR rating, which is, I know QBR is kind of like but it's like, he pretty much had a perfect game. Ezekiel Elliott came back to form. He got the confidence back with that touchdown. All I'm going to say is that the Cowboys defense looks legit, which is extremely surprising. They finally have a pass rush. Yes, they went up against Arizona, not a very top heavy offensive line, but the fact of the matter that the Cowboys were sending 3-man fronts at their line and still getting pressure and sacks, that goes to show you something. I think that the Cowboys are now back on the right track. It's just a matter of see if they can, instill that consistency and go on some runs.
Stay on that track.
Exactly. So, yeah, I was excited for the bounce back, and it was a good game, too. It was tie going to the fourth quarter, but then the Cowboys pulled away, so.
Yeah, from what I was able to see, that first half was really, really bad. And then once Dawson missed that field goal, which he's like a Hall of Fame caliber kicker. He's one of those guys who probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame based off of...
Almost automatic, yeah.
Yeah, they don't really allow kickers in the Hall of Fame as much as they should. But him missing that field goal really jump-started the Cowboys, as well as that personal foul penalty, which put them 15 yards, which allowed Dak to run in the first touchdown. But
now I will say this: the Cowboys looked flat, and I will tell you that if the Cardinals scored that second touchdown in the first quarter, I think that this is a completely different ballgame, personally. But to be fair, the Cowboys they hung in there. They played resilient. Dak, he put the ball where it had to be, and he's better than Wentz. No, but we'll get into that in Hank's recap. But yeah, the Cowboys look like the team that they were last year. Again, not as dominant, but again, they're going up against tougher teams, but they looked pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't look too bad, especially after the third and fourth quarter. They really lit up, and it seemed like the Cardinals were showing their skill without David Johnson, and Zeke didn't have that good of a game, but they continued to run him, and he eventually broke through their defensive line. And Patrick Peterson had an absolutely monster game against Dez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then again, Dez is he plays wide receiver different. I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, but when you saw that touchdown, he's an extremely physical wide receiver, and he goes for the touchdown. He will do what it takes to get the touchdown. Yeah, I understand. He can have monster games, but he's not in that position anymore where he is we got to throw it to Dez. He's more of he's another cog in the machine, but he's extremely talented, and he puts pressure away.
Yeah, he's like the guy who's gonna get doubled, and then everyone else is gonna get the ball.
Exactly. So let's move on to, in my opinion, the best game this week, that being the Eagles and Giants game. Go ahead, Hank.
So, again, despite what DJ will say, the trolling that he will do in my general direction of how I never pick my team to win, I actually did pick my team to win because I had this game slated as a win before the season even before the preseason even started, and to me, this game was a bit of a letdown. Now, I was the one who came out and said that the Giants had some fight in them, and obviously they did. And with Odell Beckham, they're a completely different team.
A healthy Odell Beckham.
Yeah, the healthy Odell Beckham. But, the first half for the Eagles, the defense really set the tone. The offense was, a bit sluggish. But, I guess that's what you might see in the first home opener, the home opener of the season. But it boggles my mind how idiotic some of Doug Peterson's play calling is. It's like, and I discussed this with Ricky during his game. When it's 4th and 8 at your opponent's 48-yard line, and there was less than 2 minutes left in the game.
No, it was the second half.
Yeah, no, it was the second.
The first half. The first half,
quarter.
2-minute warning, second quarter.
Yeah, he goes for it on 4th and 8 because and I quote, consulted the team statistician.
Statistician.
Yes, statistician, and you're looking at that and you're like, okay, I could write Football for Dummies and you could read it, and I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what any mathematician has to say. Okay? Common sense comes in when you're like 4th and 8. What do you do at the opponent's 48-yard line? There's less than 2 minutes left. Of course you're going to punt because there's such a low chance of you getting that first down. There's a low chance.
And Hank, I want to bring this up. Theoretically, that really should have lost you the game because Sterling Shepard should have caught that, and he did catch it in my opinion, and that should have been a touchdown, but refs say otherwise.
I agree with you. He should have caught it, but he dropped it going to the ground. You have to have control over the football going to the ground. That's a big thing, and I will say that he should have caught it, but he didn't. And it was the whole game, it was Doug Peterson could foresee the future with all the calls he was making. I remember thinking we didn't get that 4th and 8 because I knew we were going to get that 4th and 8. And I was like, Doug Peterson is so effing stupid. I said more F-bombs than I've ever said in my life, I feel like. And after that, I was like, excuse my French. And then after we stopped them at the 1-yard line, I was like, Doug Peterson's a genius. but my issue, that was my first issue with him. My second issue with him was the fact that at the beginning of the game, the passing the ball wasn't working because Wentz got sacked twice on 2 consecutive drives, and he was just doing the same thing. And then he kept running Blunt, and LeGarrette Blunt was getting mad first downs. Just boom, 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 first down. He was chewing them up. And then he gets completely away from LeGarrette Blunt. LeGarrette Blunt isn't even on the field anymore.
He did the exact it's like if he purposely knew, oh yeah, this obviously is working, but well, in all seriousness, I feel like Doug got full of himself. He thought ooh, he wanted to get cute. And he ended up nearly paying for it. Yeah. If I guarantee you that if the Eagles had lost this game, he would have been put on a cross, and they would have probably crucified this guy.
Exactly,
because of his idiocy.
And then the other issue was the fact that we had a 14-point lead, and it just seemed like we were just giving them the game. And then eventually they go up 21-0. Odell Beckham, he pretends to pee on the field like a dog. And when he came out in the end, he was like, I play like a dog. Because I'm a dog or something like that, which that's not a compliment to yourself. That's like a disgrace to all professionals. But in the end, it's really ironic because while Doug Peterson appeared to give the game away, what I really would say, it was almost like he was thinking to himself, how can I make this game closer? You know, how can I give the fans?
He's like, I gotta make it interesting for the rating.
How can I give the fans a heart attack? And I mean, Corey Clement stepped up in the game, and so did Jake Elliott. I mean, Jake Elliott delivered a 61-yard field goal, something the Philadelphia Eagles never do. They never kick the 61. They never make the 61-yard field goal to win the game.
Yeah,
No,
like
it wasn't an NFL record for the Eagles' longest kick at Eagles in Philadelphia and the longest kick by a rookie in Eagles history.
Or
I think in NFL history.
NFL history, I believe.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Like, so I'm gonna just say this, and Doug Peterson got bailed out on 2 occasions. Well, you could argue a couple occasions. The 2 big ones. The first being Jake Elliott, obviously. I mean, that was a tremendous kick. I can't take anything away from the game.
It was that, and Carson Wentz really made a good play to Alshon on the
that
sideline.
too. I bring up Carson Wentz, but also like the fact that the refs, bailed them out. But I'm not trying to downplay what the Eagles did.
On my Facebook post, I said the refs bailed us out, but who cares? We won.
Like that's the part. Like I will say this. Carson Wentz and Jake Elliott, in terms of the players for the Eagles, bailed out Doug Peterson because Wentz drove the Eagles down the field, scored a touchdown. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, but obviously the Eagles scored a touchdown because he drove them down the field.
Yeah.
He puts them in position to at least attempt to win the game. If not, you go into overtime. And I mean, see, the thing is Doug Peterson, yes, I give him a slight benefit of a doubt because I don't know exactly how the Eagles are going to do this season, but I will say this. If it ends up being another 7-9 season based on the weapons that this Eagles team had, I have them going 9-7, 10-6 at most, but I'm not trying to overrate them and be like, oh, they can win. Obviously they can win the NFC East. It's just a matter of we don't know how competitive the division is going to be yet and going into October to get a sense of where the teams are going up and down.
Especially with the Redskins just beating the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
Wentz.
I mean, if the Redskins keep playing like that, then they could be a really good team in that division as well.
Yeah, Wentz needs to get rid of the ball faster, and he needs to be keen on the situation. I mean, I blame Doug Peterson 100% for that 4th and 8 call, but Carson Wentz needs to understand that you can't take a sack on that play. Because he gave up 6 yards of field position, which could have hurt him. But again, he's a 2nd-year player. I'm not putting the training wheels on him. But at the same time, I'm also going to say that I'm not going to blast him. I'm not going to blast him for all the bad things he did because he really didn't make any. He didn't make any costly mistakes in this game like he made in the other 2 games. He did what was needed to win the game. And that's
so let's actually transition to the other team, and that being the New York Giants. And if you didn't see on Facebook, I posted a funny thing where it was it was a race between the New York Jets and the New York Giants to be the best team in New York, and it was just 2 trash cans going down the street. But in all seriousness though, so the question about the Giants is who is to blame for the Giants' woes? And me personally, before I hear your guys's, I think it's 2 things. Or actually, I could argue 3 things. Number 1, probably in my opinion, the top dog in terms, no pun intended, the top dog in the blame is Jerry Reese, the Giants general management, and it comes to drafting. The fact of the matter is that yes, you get a solid tight end, or I think he's an average solid tight end, and Evan Ingram.
I like Ingram.
But the problem is you could have easily drafted a solid lineman there.
Yeah.
With all of them on the board, to an extent, all of them on the board except for Garrett Bowles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could see that. And I mean, the offensive line obviously is a problem. I just think it's hard to find offensive linemen right now in the NFL, so they would have been smart taking him. I mean, we don't know how Evan Ingram's going to play out yet. He might be, the next.
That is true.
I like him. He's on my fantasy team, But yeah. He's on my I mean, I drafted him for fantasy football. I mean, he's a decent player, but the problem with even in this last game, the Giants didn't struggle passing the ball against the Eagles at all. What they struggled doing was running the ball. I think they ran the ball for a total of 46 yards or something like that. And to win a game, that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
To win a game
so let me
on
get
the
into
road.
I'll do these two real quick, and then yeah. So my other two scapegoats, you could say, are Ben McAdoo and Eli Manning. Now, Eli Manning isn't entirely to blame, but because his age is starting to show in terms of his skill set. But he still has glimpses of him being able to air the ball out in that fourth quarter comeback by the Giants before it meant nothing.
Mhm.
But Ben McAdoo, I don't know what this guy is doing. I really don't. Like, this guy feels like he reminds me, and you're going to think let me just, I'm not saying they're exact carbon copies. He reminds me a lot
Rich Kotite
of Chip. No. He reminds me of Chip Kelly in this aspect. He leads his team to the playoffs in the first year. It's like a tease. And then next thing you know, the guy's exposed for in my opinion, the hack he is. Because I feel like Ben McAdoo isn't that coach that many people made him seem. Many people made it seem like Ben McAdoo was this solid head coach that could lead the Giants back to the promised land. But in all actuality, he just reminds me of not Doug Peters. He reminds me of Chip Kelly in that he gives you a tease in the first year, takes you to the playoffs, and then afterwards he falls off a cliff. I mean, the only thing I can give Chip Kelly the knock is that at least his team was semi-competitive.
I would more compare him to what was his name? Who is this that one Chargers head coach? Sean McCoy? Something McCoy.
Sean McVay.
No.
Or not Sean McVay.
McCoy
I'm stupid.
Of the Chargers. Dan McCoy.
Hold on, I can look it
He's
up real
the
quick. I know who you're talking
he's
about.
The Broncos offensive coordinator. It's either that or he kind of reminds me of like a grimier Rex Ryan.
Mike McCoy.
Yeah, or
Mike McCoy.
Or he kind of also reminds me of Josh McDaniels.
Okay.
In that kind of sense, but
well, yeah,
I think of course it's his fault because he's the head coach, but I think that the issues with the Giants stem further. I still think they're a team that lacks discipline. But at the same time, it seems like I'm looking at the same team that was like, oh, Odell, it's okay if you give illegal blocks to the back of players' heads during games, and that's perfectly okay. We're gonna baby you and we're gonna hold your hand,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I just think that at the end of the day, the Giants fell off because that offensive line.
No.
And I'm gonna keep reiterating this point because I've been saying this all off season into this season. Giants are the most overrated and overhyped team in the NFL, and it's showing it right now. Now, I'm not saying that the Giants are out of it yet. I will say this though: if they drop to 0-4, if they drop to 0-4, this season's a lost cause. I mean, even when you're 0-3, I still think it's a lost cause, but not as much as if you're starting 0-4, you're looking.
If they drop to 0-4, it's gonna get really bad for them because the Eagles have a relatively easy schedule, as does the Redskins. So, I mean, and Dallas will play however Dallas plays.
I mean, but realistically, I don't think, if Dallas goes...
Yeah, realistically, Dallas could go no less than 10-6. But, once you go 0-4, the probability of going to the playoffs is basically
disappears.
Yeah, What was the Broncos record in 2011? Weren't they like 1-4?
I remember the Reds. I specifically remember the Redskins thing. I think they were like 2-6 at one point. They went on an 8-game win.
They were 3-5, but the issue is they had won previous. They won the first game of the season.
I can check for you. Real quick. The 2011 Broncos.
The 2011 Broncos. They started out. They ended 8-8. I remember that.
5. They were 2-5, right?
They started.
They went on it.
Hold on. They started out
1-4. They started out 1-4.
They started out 1-4. What game?
Yeah,
what
and
game
then
did they win?
They won against the Bengals 24-22.
Oh, they won in week 2. So yeah, once you're 0-4, the chances of you doing anything drops massively. But I think
we're basically out of contention at that point.
Yeah, but I think we've exhausted. Unless Josh, do you have anything to say about this?
About the Giants?
Yeah.
Just not really. They're just the Giants to me. They're always going to be. They have Odell Beckham. They're going to make flashy plays. They're probably going to be in almost every game, or they're going to be completely out of it. I just feel like that's the Giants. Like, they'll be really exciting a couple games, and then they'll just be the Giants and just be horrible.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty, so I think it's time to move on to our next topic. Now, this is kind of a two-part segment. That being the Patriots and Falcons, and basically where they stand this nowadays in this part of the season. Again, it's early, but we're going to take it how it looks right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off with the Patriots. So for those that are unaware, the Patriots start off 2-1. But there is something very alarming about this Patriots team that a lot of people I don't think are recognizing. We probably do, but like some of the fans I think don't understand that this is becoming very detrimental, and that is that defense. Over the past 3 games, okay, the New England Patriots have given up 42 points, about 20 points. I don't recall the exact score of the Saints game, but they gave up more than 20 points, and then 33 points to the Texans at home.
Mm-hmm.
They still found a way to win. I'm not knocking that away. I'm not trying to belittle that, but the point is that the Patriots, if they're and again, Dante Hightower is out, so that's part of the problem. But the Patriots cannot continuously win games in shootouts. Yes, they can win games in shootouts, but if this trend continues throughout the season and they end up hitting the playoffs, I don't think they can go far because of this defense.
That's true, but at the same time,
that's absolutely true. Because when you put them up against a really good team, and everyone forgets that the Texans were the number 1 defense last year. Like, because they came out and they got crushed in their first game, everyone's like, "Oh, Texans aren't good." Deshaun Watson, rookie quarterback. It's not like they had a quarterback last year. They were still a good team. They made the playoffs. Yeah. So, and the Chiefs really exposed the Patriots this year so far.
Also, understand that over the past few years, they really haven't had that good of a defense. Like, they haven't had a defense that you would like excellently rank high. Like, this isn't. Mm-hmm. These aren't the Patriots of like 2001 to 2007, where they had like an elite defense with all elite players. They don't really have that good of they have an average defense. And the reason why they have that average defense is because they have such a good offense. They have such a good offensive scheme. They've got Gronk, they've got Cooks, who they finally decided to utilize in this game. And they have Brady, who Brady is probably the best quarterback of our and every generation. But yeah,
I beg to differ, but okay. No, but okay. Now we got to talk about the Falcons, because the Patriots one was okay. That's fine because we expect them to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Falcons are a bit different. For those that are unaware, the Falcons have had an interesting start to their undefeated season so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because week 1 they nearly lose to Chicago 23-17. Or
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Chicago's going to be a tough place to play for any team.
Yeah, I agree. I understand that, but like I'm the point. I'll get to my point in a second. They win pretty much outright against the Packers, but the Packers kind of rallied, but not really.
Yeah.
And then you go into Detroit and you nearly lose against Detroit.
And come back to Matt Ryan. Or Matt Stafford, sorry.
But
there's Matt Prater, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan.
So I make the point that theoretically, this Atlanta team should be 1-2 if things go a certain way. I'm not trying to knock on the team and say it's bad, but the fact of the matter is that when you give a team the position to win on you, you're lucky the ball bounces your way. Because Atlanta could be looking at a completely different team if they start out 1-2, and a lot of people are trying to say, well, they're undefeated because they're unstoppable, but no, they're undefeated because they happen to have the ball bounced a certain ways, which, yes, there are games like that. I'm not trying to knock on them for that, but say if this trend continues where they win and lose games like this, I don't think they're going to look good going forward.
I mean...
I think good teams find a way to win.
Yeah, they do.
I understand that. I understand that, but
this is a veteran team with a lot of talent, but they're also. But here's the thing. I mean, the Lions are no slouch. They were playing the Lions at home. Of course, when if you have the home crowd, it was just unfortunate that the Lions happened to not only be a yard short, but be victims to an a pretty rotten NFL rule.
Yeah, the runoff time on the clock. Yeah. Even though they called it a touchdown, and if they would have called it down, maybe they would have been able to run up, spike the ball, or whatever. Who knows? But we can't decide that.
Yeah.
But Ricky, I just think to the point that you were making, that going forward, because they've had a couple sloppy wins, look at the Raiders last year. They came out and barely beat the Saints in overtime, and then they lost to the Falcons in Oakland. But then they went on to win, 12 games last year? Almost 13 if Derek Carr doesn't get hurt?
Yeah. Well, they could have won 14 if Derek Carr didn't get hurt. But I completely agree with you, Judge. I'm not trying to knock on what the Falcons are doing. I understand that good teams find a way to win. What alarms me is the fact that if you're the Falcons, you shouldn't – if you're that good of a team – and I understand that what they're playing, it's hard. It's hard to win in some of these places. But if you're that good of a squad and you think that you're so good – you can do this, you should be sometimes winning outright. Again, this is a very early analysis of this team. Again, but like I was saying, if this trend continues to where teams, they're still letting teams get the ball back with a chance to win games, that eventually calls for alarm.
Eventually, they're going to get unlucky. Eventually, they're going to be on the losing end of that. And to the point of that runoff thing, I really want to discuss it, or just briefly discuss it, because, I understand why they have that rule in place, but I think that if a team elects to, say for instance, the Lions scored and they were making the review, I think that it could be a rule that the Lions could say, you can erase the touchdown if we can get if we can get the ball stoppage at the 1 yard line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. See, this is the problem.
Yeah.
My thing with the rule is this. So you have 8 seconds. What, they had 8 seconds left on the clock after the touchdown was scored?
I think they had 10.
Right? Okay. So my idea is, and what I personally believe is that what they should have said was that what normally happens when a touchdown is overturned in that kind of situation? They can let the clock run? I'm pretty sure.
I think they let the clock run.
Okay, so why is it that at the end of the game there has to be a 10-second runoff, like you mentioned? I'm saying you agreed with that, but like you mentioned, it's realistically, this is what the refs should have done: is that they should have said the ball is placed here. The clock will begin on my signal. The
Yeah.
the Lions are out there on the field and they spike what it was like 1st and goal or whatever, right?
Yeah,
So
it
they
was
could have
the
spiked the
one,
ball.
Yeah.
So you spike the ball and you get one last chance to win. I thought they would have won that game, but then again, it's like it's one of those.
Well, it's one of those things where, but what they do when they let the clock run on another play that they review and overturn, they still all they line the ball up, everyone lines up, and the ref blows the whistle saying, okay, time resumes. So theoretically, you should let them line up on the 1-yard line, blow the game whistle, and they have enough time to whatever, snap it, throw it, do whatever they want. That's how it should be.
Yeah, it just seems like the Detroit Lions get screwed over by new NFL rules. I'm not saying they got screwed because it's it's clearly in the rules. Like, it's not like the referees just made it up. I mean, it's actually a rule. It's just unfortunate.
Right.
That they fell victim to it.
So we should move on to a electrifying rookie that has been just popping off our screens ever since his infamous fumble first carry to now being a star in this, a rising star, you could argue, depending if his trend continues, that being Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were talking about this and we were saying, well, is Kareem Hunt more electrifying and more impactful to their team more than Ezekiel Elliott, the previous running back that you could argue was the most impactful? It was
like last year's, like, what was he? Offensive player of the year or something, or rookie of the year?
No. Dak was, but like he was in the running.
Yeah, he was like the guy everyone was talking about. Me personally, he's more electrifying than Zeke, but he's not as impactful as Zeke.
Okay.
Because with Zeke is big because he can get, like, he can run you off like 8-10 yards like a pop, basically. And he'll keep your offense running like that. With Kareem Hunt, he's had 3 instances where he's run for over 50 yards.
Yeah, in all 3 games. No, it's not 3 instances. It's in all 3 games he's had at least a 50-yard run.
Yeah.
A 50-yard play.
And you can't really say that about, I mean, I guess Zeke had a long run against the Bengals that was really the one I remember for a touchdown, but I think right now Kareem Hunt is more electrifying, but he's not as impactful, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think it's a little too early to actually call it. I mean, we were doing the same thing with Zeke. Last year, Matt Forte at this point in time was on pace to get something like 1,700 yards. He finished with like less than 1,000. So right now, I know it's a crazy pace. I think teams are going to try to stop him, but I don't think the Chiefs are going to get bad. I think teams are going to try to adjust to Kareem Hunt because, as Hank says, I don't think he's impactful. He's electrifying and more explosive and faster than Zeke, but I think that if you bracket him somehow, or if you get him, kind of locked up in the ground game and make Alex Smith beat you, I still think the Chiefs could beat you with Alex Smith and the rest of their weapons. Tyreek Hill, all those guys.
Because here's the thing. In every one of his games, I think in the first half, he's been held to under 20 yards in each of those games. I'm not sure about that Chargers game, but I think that was the case for the Patriots game and the Eagles. I know the Eagles held him to under 20 rushing yards in the first half. And it wasn't until the second half where he just blew it all up,
Yeah, I just think with Kareem Hunt, this is the thing. Kareem Hunt is this, he's a completely different back than Zeke. Zeke is the ground and pound, we're gonna run the football, and you can start a game like running Zeke, and like he can get your offense going to a T.
Yeah,
that's Zeke. Kareem Hunt is he can be electrifying and he can make plays, but he doesn't start your offense because the way you use him.
Yeah, he
reminds me a lot of Reggie Bush in terms of the ways you can use him. But I'm not saying like
I think he's a bigger. I think he's a little more impactful than Reggie Bush. I think that Christian McCaffrey is more of a Reggie Bush. But I think Kareem Hunt is one of those guys who, he's gonna knock off a long carry, but it's gonna be in the second half, like in the
I got you.
What he had a big play in the fourth quarter last week against the Chargers, but I think he's a better fantasy running back than Zeke is, though. Right now,
obviously, but I think at the end of the day, Kareem Hunt, he's probably that electrifying person like Jamal Charles was. Like they kind of missed that. They kind of need. I'm not saying like Jamal Charles was fantastic for the Chiefs until his injuries and whatnot. But I mean, like, I think that this is something the Chiefs need. I mean, for their offense, and it is kind of weird because like they're both different players that function differently in different offenses and how they impact and whatnot. So it is kind of hard, to like accurately say, well, this person's more impactful than this, but because both the teams function differently.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's true.
So let's go ahead and move on to, I guess, our final topic before we get to until we get to our picks for the week. That being Cam Newton, and I found about this earlier today. Apparently, there's Panthers staff and officials that are saying that Cam Newton's body is on the decline, and this means now people might be like, what do you mean by that? Well, they feel as if Cam Newton is taking so many hits because of his style of play, and that since he's older, he can't handle the hits. So there's a ton of factors going into Cam Newton and the way his body's been taking blows. I believe he's 28, right? Like 28, 29.
This reminds me of this reminds me of Michael Vick. They said the exact same thing about him.
Words out of my mouth.
But the only difference is that Michael Vick was listed at 5'11", but he was actually like he was listed at 6 feet, but he was actually 5'11". Cam Newton is like, what, 6'3"? Cam Newton's tall. Cam Newton was bigger than Vick. One thing that I've noticed in all the games that I've seen is that quarterbacks aren't sliding correctly anymore. Like,
no.
every quarterback goes head first, which is so dangerous. Every time it happens, I'm like, be careful. Please be careful. Just be careful.
See, and I want to bring this up, like, the newer quarterbacks, and I'm talking about like the most recent ones, that being a Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz. They at least somewhat know how to slide. I mean, Dak Prescott, like, he front flipped into the end zone. Granted, that was a different situation. Luckily, he landed correctly, because for God's sake, if he landed on his neck, oh my God, that would have been horrible. But see, with Cam Newton, after that MVP season, I think what's the issue with Cam, and I think this is why, and I don't want to keep harping on my quarterback Dak, but like I want to bring this up because he technically is a new age mobile quarterback, and the way he plays and whatnot. See, with Dak, he utilizes more of his pocket passing ability. Yes, he can use his mobile ability, as we've seen, but that's not his primary go-to thing. Like Cam Newton before he's mobile, and yeah, he can pass the ball. I mean, obviously, but the problem is that with Cam Newton, as he's getting older, he's not used to passing as much in terms of being more of a pocket passer rather than being that MVP form where like he was just running down sidelines and whatnot.
Well, so, I think a lot of the running quarterbacks, I think there's a difference between running and scrambling. Like, that's why I think Russell Wilson's a better quarterback than Cam Newton, because he's not necessarily built to, like, yeah, there's a few designed run plays, but like Cam, you knew him as like, he's going to take off. He's going to run the ball. Whereas Russell Wilson's, he's more comfortable in a pocket, a better pocket passer, but also has escapability.
No, dude, I completely, like, that's the thing. Like, scrambling, of course, is different than being, in my opinion, like, mobile. When you're talking about a mobile quarterback, when I refer to mobile, I'm referring to, like, someone like a Cam Newton where their primary option is to run. But obviously, when you're looking at mobile, you think of actual mobile and scrambling. Like, for example, for a time, Tony Romo was a scrambling quarterback. Russell Wilson's a scrambling quarterback. Carson Wentz is a scrambling quarterback because that's their style of play. They don't necessarily rely on their running abilities, but they can if needed.
They can get out the pocket and move.
Cam Newton is in this position in his career where I feel like he hasn't translated well into more of a pocket passer as opposed to, like, that's the thing with Cam Newton. As he's getting older, he has to realize that he can't do these things. Like Michael Vick at some point, yeah, he could air the ball out, Michael Vick, but like, you know, there would be times where like Vick would get injured easily because he had that mentality that he thought that he was still that kind of guy, that young guy that wouldn't get injured because, you know, that's just like everybody in the NFL thinks that they could still do, to an extent, could still do the things that they can do. Unfortunately, your body catches up to you at some points or another.
And he's always kind of been not the most accurate quarterback. I think what's Tim has always kind of been his ability to get away and be so big. I mean, a couple of years ago, we were watching Cam Newton like running over linebackers and stuff like that. I just think that kind of play, like we've been talking about, takes that toll on your body. He wasn't getting hit by cornerbacks on the out. He wasn't just getting hit by cornerbacks on the outside. He was getting like nailed by linebackers up the middle, you know?
Okay. Yeah. So, Hank had to take a leave of absence, unfortunately. So we're just going to go on without him. So we're going to move on to our weekly picks. And, if we hold up, let me go ahead and worst case scenario, I'll just, you know, we will. This isn't that big of a deal in terms of them. I mean,
we'll post it on our Facebook page. We'll post everyone's picks on our Facebook page.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. Let's go ahead. Let me pull up the list. So I have my game of the week, and I have first the Thursday night game. The 1:00 game is my personal game of the week, and then you have the primetime games, and then Sunday night and Monday night. So let's go ahead and start off Thursday Night Football. We have the Green Bay Packers against Chicago in Green Bay, by the way. Who you got?
I have Green Bay. We were talking about how Chicago is going to put up a fight. Maybe it'll be a good game. Might be exciting. You know, those same Chicago Bears that gave, they just beat the Steelers. So who knows? They might put up a good fight. But I do have the Green Bay Packers winning this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Green Bay as well. I just think I think that Green Bay got a wake-up call versus Cincinnati in terms of, okay, we can't play it easy at home. Because normally that happens. Like, sometimes the Green Bay Packers played way too easy sometimes at home. Mm-hmm. And then you end up having these losses. Yes, it is a divisional opponent, obviously. But I think Chicago comes back to reality going up against Green Bay. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to our 1:00 games. And we also have a London game. So let me do that one first. So the London game is New Orleans versus Miami. I'll go first. Blunt. I got Miami. Is this the Saints' first time in London? Because I know Miami's played in London.
I do not think it's their first time there. I think, it might be their first time there. I don't know. We'll have to look more into that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I have the Saints winning this one actually.
Okay. I got Miami winning. I just feel like Miami's going to bounce back. And I just think no, I'm not saying that this, like, when I say that they're going to win, I don't mean, like, they're going to win by, like, a large margin, obviously. I think this is going to come down to the wire, and it's going to be a field goal that decides this game.
Ooh, close one.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, I saw this joke where they're like, man, you know, like, if we had just showed the Baltimore Ravens Jacksonville Jaguars game to the British during the War of Independence, they would have just given us independence right away. But okay, let's move on. Another 1:00 game. Buffalo Bills at Atlanta.
I have Atlanta winning that one.
Okay. Let me mark that down. I'm really tempted to take Buffalo and upset because I feel like, but here's the thing: when it comes to Atlanta, I think, what was it? There nearly 2 losses came on the road. Okay,
and they're so good at home, and they've always been good at home.
that's why I'm taking Atlanta, because I feel like Atlanta does so well at home, and they're just gonna get the job done. Alrighty, so next game, Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. In Baltimore, by the way. I'm gonna go first. I'll go first because
go ahead.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens in this matchup. Now, I did say beforehand, or before I made my whole season predictions, I did say that Baltimore and Pittsburgh were gonna split. This is going to be going to the Ravens, in my opinion. I just think that when you look at, like, what was the last year? Like, the Baltimore Ravens literally humiliated Pittsburgh in Baltimore. So, until I'm proven otherwise by Pittsburgh, I'm taking Baltimore.
Yeah. So, I'd take Baltimore, too. I think Baltimore can win this game. We're coming off of a big loss, but so are the Steelers. So, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a smash-mouth football game. It's going to be a tough, fought-out battle, and I think the Ravens win it with Justin Tucker field goal.
Cool. Alrighty, so hopefully, because I have him on my For Money fantasy. Or no, actually I have Matt Prater, so I apologize. But let's go to probably the most lackluster game, Cincinnati at Cleveland. Give me the Browns. I just think that, like, when you look at the Browns, right? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I just got a notification. When you look at the Browns have been playing competitive football, and they've been in games. It's just the ball hasn't bounced their way. Other than the Ravens game, like, they realistically had a shot to an extent to beat the Colts and the Steelers.
Right, exactly.
As opposed to the Bengals, who have lost outright.
Right. Besides last week where they put up a fight against the Packers. But yeah, you're right. The first two games, they just did not look good at all. I have the Browns too, and I think a big thing is that the Browns are actually making plays, and they have multiple guys who are making plays. Duke Johnson Jr. is making plays. Higgins is making plays. Kaiser is making plays. I think that team is on the up and up. I think that they're trending upwards, and somebody has to lose this game. The Bengals lose.
Exactly. And then hopefully Marvin Lewis sees his way out eventually. No, but okay. So I'm gonna skip this one game because that's my game of the week, and I'll just tell you right now, it's Dallas versus Los Angeles. But I have my reasons for being game of the week. Tennessee at Houston. This is a hard one to pick. This is legitimately a coin flip.
I have Tennessee winning just because Texans are still running with a rookie quarterback, and the Titans defense is actually pretty good. So I think that I have the Titans.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go with Tennessee as well. See, this is my whole thing. If Houston, like, Deshaun Watson, I don't know why people are still, like, thinking he's trash or whatever. Dude, I think Deshaun Watson's going to be he's going to be a good quarterback in the future. Not, like, fantastic, but, like, he will be what the Texans need. And he showed that versus New England and nearly beating Tom Brady and the Patriots. But then again, He has made mistakes. He will make mistakes. And I think that Tennessee's going to get the better of him.
I think also what helps Tennessee is that they have that two-headed running game with DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. And I think that's going to help them eat up some clock, tire out that tough Texans defense. Don't not let Deshaun score too much. So I think the Titans win that one.
Okay, so let's move on to Detroit at Minnesota. This is, I think, going to be I'm going to pick Detroit in this one. Here's why. I feel like Minnesota got caught lightning in a bottle with that one game against Tampa Bay. It's not going to happen again. They're going to come down to earth, and Detroit's going to come in and win in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think Detroit's going to win. I know that I think it was tough to game plan for Case Keenum just because they don't have any film on him in that offense, you know. I think that it's going to go down to the Lions. The Lions are going to be hungry after this loss. Feel like they got, ripped off, so they're going to come in tough and hungry. Divisional opponent, but I have the Lions winning.
Okay, no problem. Just give me 1 second. I just got to check something. Give me 1 sec. Just wanted to make sure what was going on. Okay. Next game, Well, first let's do this game because this is easy. Jacksonville at New York Jets. I'm going with Jacksonville. I'm going with Jacksonville. I clearly think that. I think that when you look at the Jets, I think they kind of got lucky versus Miami because I feel like Miami just waltzed into New York thinking that they were going to win, when in reality they didn't. So I mean, Jacksonville has a good defense, even though they're running Leonard Fournette into the ground. Yeah, so I got Jacksonville.
I actually have the Jets winning this one because I think Jacksonville's going to be riding a little bit too much of a high because that's those big games like that. Those players get excited, and I think it's hard for them to come back down to earth. They think that they just beat one of the best defenses in the league and made them look sloppy. I think Blake Bortles is going to make some mistakes, and the Jets always have a good defense. And even if their offense isn't that good, their defense is good. But I think that the Jets are going to come in and win this game.
Okay, so going to the last 1 o'clock game before I get to the game of the week, in our primetime games, Carolina at New England. I'm gonna go with New England, but the reasoning why is because I don't think Carolina has enough firepower to take on New England per se. I just think that when you're looking at the Carolina Panthers now, don't be surprised if the Panthers win this game. Like I wouldn't be shocked if the Panthers could put up points, which I don't think they can personally. But if they can, that's the way you can beat New England. But New England's built to win in a shootout. I think that they'll dissect the Panthers, and they're going to move to 3-1.
Unless this is Cam's coming out game of the year and he just blows up. I think that I have the Patriots winning this one too.
Okay. Hold up. I'm just trying to make sure that I miss a game. Let me see.
I think you moved yours from an afternoon game to...
Yes. Yeah, gotcha. That's why. Okay, so let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 7. Okay, we're good. So game of the week. Los Angeles Rams at Dallas Cowboys. The reason why I have this as the game of the week is because you got to look at the Rams situation. The Rams are currently first place in their division, and they're looking to solidify themselves at that point in the season. Well, they're trying to get as many wins as possible. Hopefully, that the Seahawks or the Cardinals don't really catch on. So they're trying to get as many wins as possible. Cowboys, on the other hand, they're going to try and hope to stay in this NFC East race. So I'm unfortunately I have to go to Buffalo Wild Wings to see this game. I really wish this was the game of the week, but unfortunately it doesn't look that way. But again, it's Oakland versus Denver for the actual game of the week, which that's not bad, but still.
What do you mean that's not bad? That rivalry is one of the toughest rivalries in the NFL, and even the years that the Raiders sucked and they played in their division, those were always the games that they won, and they won. And they always made them great. So that's a good rivalry. Yeah.
I'm gonna not because I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'm gonna pick Dallas mainly because Dallas has played 3 top-notch opponents with their defenses. The Rams haven't really made a statement win. They could make it here, but then again, this Cowboys team looks like it's coming together. They've played really well against these tough opponents. I'm thinking Dallas wins this game.
Is it in Dallas?
Yes, it's in Dallas.
This is a tough one, but I'm gonna go with Dallas.
Okay. So now let me just make sure. Okay, so let's go to the primetime games. This is I don't know how this is a 4 o'clock slot. San Francisco at Arizona. Let's just do this one real quick.
Because it's only 1 o'clock here. That's why it's a 4 o'clock slot there. It's only 1 o'clock over here.
Obviously. Give me Arizona. I think Arizona bounces.
I think the 49ers. They need a win.
Okay. Let's see. Philadelphia Eagles at Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, this
is a hard one because I feel like I'm not trying to hate on the Eagles. I just feel like Doug Peterson is going to blow this game for the Eagles. I think that the Chargers are going to beat the Eagles. That's my pick. But it's because I feel like the Chargers, they're due for a win, number 1. And number 2, I feel like that the Eagles are going to come in and they're going to feel like like just how the Raiders were with Washington. They're gonna walk in. They're gonna be like, "Oh, this is easy. Don't worry. It's an 0-3 team," and they're gonna get surprised and lose. That's my thought.
I think that the Chargers are going to win. Yeah, I have the Chargers as well.
Okay, so next game, New York Giants at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now,
The Giants have another primetime game?
yes, they have
When
another
are they
4
gonna-
o'clock slot.
Oh, it's 4 o'clock. Okay, thank goodness.
Theoretically, the 4 o'clock slot, in my opinion, means you're gonna have a primetime game because you're being put into a smaller like bracket, but that isn't realistically the game of the week per se. But so New York showed its resiliency against Philadelphia. Granted, that is a huge rivalry, and that was, they gave the Eagles all they could, and they ended up losing at the end. Now Tampa Bay needs to be careful here because this is not going to be a loft. Like, this isn't going to be like a layup because New York's desperate and they're going to try and hope to keep their season alive with a win. Now, Tampa Bay, they're playing at home, so I'm going to give the notch to Tampa Bay because of that.
I'm going to give it to Tampa Bay too.
Okay. And this is the actual game of the week, that being Oakland versus Denver. Well, according to the television station, Oakland is playing in Denver. Me personally, I'm going to. This is hard because this rivalry. I'm going to take. God, this is hard. I don't. Who do you have? 'Cause
I have Tampa Bay winning this game.
It's Oakland versus Denver.
You didn't ask me who's going to win the Tampa Bay Giants game.
Oh, I apologize. Well, you told me Tampa Bay.
Did I?
Yes, you did. Swear to God.
Oh, I don't remember saying it. I got distracted. But
okay.
for the Denver Raider game, I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Okay. This is hard because I'm not giving like that. I know Denver has a good home field. Personally, I think it's the best home field advantage in the league. But the Raiders are known for going there, and they do play tough. So I got Denver in this matchup. I think. I don't know why, just my gut feeling. I feel like Denver is going to pull out a win. But I wouldn't be surprised if Oakland hands Denver a loss. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Sunday night and Monday night games. So first is the Sunday night game. Oh my God, I can't believe this is a Sunday night football game. I honest to God really wish that they swapped this game and moved Oakland versus Denver to a Sunday night.
They should have.
So it's Indianapolis at Seattle. For the love of God, if Seattle loses this game, I don't even know what to say, but they're gonna win this game. They're at home. Like, for God's sake, if you lose this game, then you're SOL.
Yeah, I have Seattle winning that one as well. Yeah, I definitely think Seattle, Russell Wilson's still Russell Wilson, so I have Seattle winning that.
Yeah, okay. Finally, this, again, and I feel bad because you don't really know how the schedule is going to play out. So, that's the unfortunate part of the schedule. But, it's Washington at Kansas City. Okay. So, I'm going to take Kansas City. I feel like Washington got full of itself versus